Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. It's a new day with another opportunity to make money in the market or to learn from the market, right? But let me kind of give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, y'all. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth, and the stock market is just one of those avenues. This video is for educational purposes only, y'all. So with that being said, let's get started. So we are looking at the VIX on this 5-minute time frame. I'm going to go to the 30-minute. And it seems as if we made a high of 1956 earlier. It would not surprise me if we came, or 1957, it wouldn't surprise me if we came back to this level. Let me say that, right? So we were trading here in I won't say a gathering spot here. We broke out of that only to come down and find support under the 20 EMA. Now, can the VIX continue down? It very well can. So right now our 5 EMA is our resistance along with this 20 EMA, our resistance. So if the VIX breaks above 1876, and above 1893, we may very well come back and retest this 1956. As of now, it looks like it's trying to give us a double bottom, but again, this is a 30-minute time frame. We have to wait on the candle to close. So where do I see it could very well come down, to this 50 EMA right here at the 1801 or the 1796, which is the ATR trailing stop on this 30-minute chart. So keep in mind, when the VIX is down, that means the SPY is normally going up. When the VIX is up, that means the SPY is normally down. That's normally, because sometimes it changes, right? It just kind of gives us an idea of how the market is moving. So the SPY is interesting. Yesterday it came down to this 502.55, which again, I mentioned SPY's at kind of like close to a gap fill territory is what I like to say, because there's a gap to the downside starting at that 503, I believe, down to the 497 range. So that's something to be mindful of. We were consolidating or creating a gathering spot is what I like to say, right here. We tested this ATR trailing stop, which is right at this 50 EMA. And as you can see right now, that's our trouble place. We have not been able to break above that. It seems like it tested it again and got rejected. So right now, the 5 EMA is our support for the SPY at this time. And that's at 505.03. If we break that, we could very well come back down, if to the 504.57, which is the 20 EMA. Now, if we continue to the downside, break under this 20 EMA, and then break under this level of support, 503.42, we could very well come down to fill this gap to the downside. And in my opinion, I could very well see us filling that gap. Anything is possible. It could very well change. And keep in mind, y'all, it's always somebody on the other end that's trying to, trick us into thinking that it's going to do something, and then it does something completely different. So I always say, trade what you see. Pay attention to your charts. Mark your levels of support and or resistance. Looking at this 1-hour chart, again, is this a double top on the 1 hour that could send us back to the downside? So if I was trading this SPY today, I would definitely watch this 502.55. My alert will be under the 502.55, because if we break that level, that means we have broken a level of support, and we could very well continue to the downside to fill this downside gap. I'm going to go to the daily chart just so that we can see where we are. So looking at the daily chart, SPY yesterday, we marked that 507 as our support here at the ATR trailing stop, and it was right there at the 50. We broke through that yesterday and closed under that. So again, this is where we are. You see how close we are to filling this gap that was created on 222. So we could, again, if we break under the 502.55, we could very well continue down to fill this gap at 497.37. That will be the gap fill that will actually close this gap, and it's around that area, right? So let's say we continue to sell off and break, down below that. SPY could come back down to the 470.94 range, and keep in mind the SPY only moves $6.02 on average per day. And anything is possible. Yesterday we exceeded that. We totally exceeded that. Let's say that. So again, if you trade the SPY, I would definitely watch those levels right now. Looking at, we are finding support here. This is the 5-minute chart. It is slightly above VWAP, but right now the VWAP is the support. So again, if it breaks up below this 505.20 area, we could very well come back down to this 504.79 or this 504.68. And again, those are looking at the 5-minute time frame, and the MACD is crossing here. So that's something to be mindful of. We could very well come on back down, just come down. I would say trade carefully, mark your levels, and the number that I'm watching for today with the SPY is at 502.55, and that's to the downside. So let's look at the upside, because again, we had such a strong sell-off on yesterday, or decline yesterday. We could come back and retest and go back to the upside. Let's say we broke this 506.11 right here, which is the 50 EMA and above the ATR trailing stop. If we broke that level, I will be looking at this 507.19, because that will be our resistance on the daily chart. If we break this level of resistance, which is on the daily chart, I'm going to put an alert above that, because if we break that, then we could very well come back up to the 511.57. Is it doable? I say anything is possible in the market, y'all. Anything is possible. Before we get to that 511.57, keep in mind there's some other areas that we will have to break also, like this 508.24, which is the ATR trailing stop, 508.24, or the 508.62. That's going to be a trouble place before we get to that 511. And looking at it on the 4-hour, we tested this 5 EMA, which is at 505.62. So we really need to get above 505.62, or if we go to the downside, below 502.55. Those are areas that I will be watching for the SPY to the upside and to the downside. Again, don't rush into your trades. Allow your trades to come to you. Be mindful of, where your support is and where your resistance is. I always ask myself, where am I going to have trouble? So you have to be able to identify that, right? So this is Tesla. Tesla is Tesla. Let's say that it closed at 161.48. And looking at this 30-minute time frame, it has created a gathering spot for us. And I'm going to mark that at the 158.40, let's say 158.50, all the way down to 157.15. So our support at this point is at 157.15. Our resistance is at the 158.50. So I would mark those levels for Tesla. And if you trade Tesla, I always say trade carefully. We are down pre-market thus far. Anything is possible with Tesla. Some news can come out and, it could send us back in a different direction or send us further down. I always say pay attention to your charts and trade what you see. Right now, Tesla is very close to a gap fill area. And that gap was created on 126. If it breaks the 155.48, then Tesla can very well come down to, let's see if we can find that, 155.48. If we break that level, we can come down to the 146.51, and that's to fill that gap to the downside. And of course, there's some places that can stop in between, but right now, that's what I see on the daily chart. And if you can see on this daily chart, we've been kind of like moving sideways, really, just creating. So it's time, in my opinion, for it to break out either to the upside or to the downside, and it looks like it has chose a direction. Let me say that. I had that 160.51 as very strong, support for Tesla. And right now we are under that support. So that's something to be mindful of with Tesla. Again, that gap fills at 155.48 all the way down to the 146.41. Is it possible? It is. Tesla normally moves $7.91 per day. And Tesla is one of those that normally exceeds its ATR to the downside or to the upside. It normally goes beyond that. Let's say that. So I would pay very close attention to that 157.15 or the 158.50. That's our zone. It could trade up or down. Now let's say Tesla decides to go back to the upside at the 159.82 is one of our trouble places, which is the 20 EMA on this 30-minute chart, or the 161.30, which is the ATR trailing stop on our 30-minute chart. The 50 EMA is at the 163.68. So these are trouble places for us. If we decide to break to the upside, it will first need to get past the 159.83. And if we break all of those levels, we could very well come back and test the 169.26. I'm not saying that I see that today. In my opinion, it looks like we're going to trade to the downside. Ever since, when the market first opened this morning at 4, Tesla has been declining down, and it's under the 5 EMA, and this is pre-market, right? But when the bell ring, anything is possible. It could very well jump to the upside, let's say that. So again, this is Tesla. We are under the 5 EMA, and it looks like we're headed to the downside to fill this gap. I will set my alert under this 156.80, which is the pre-market low thus far. And if Tesla breaks below those areas, I would definitely be looking to trade it to the downside. So NVDA is another one for this morning. And NVIDIA it created a gathering spot for us earlier. It broke out of that to the downside only to come back up to the gathering spot. So right now, NVIDIA is above the 20 EMA, which is right here at the 862.90 area, 862.40 area, and the 5 EMA, which is right here at the 861.40. So if NVIDIA stay above the 5 EMA, 861.43, we could very well come back up and test this ATR trailing stop in this 50 EMA, which is around the 870.95. So I would say if you're trading NVIDIA, definitely keep a watch on above 861.50. Otherwise, we can break down to the downside and come back and test this 855, let's say the 855.60. And the pre-market low this morning was 849.30, so that's something to be mindful of. I always, if we tested that area before, we could very well come back and test that area again. So if we break below, that 849.30, that's something to watch. NVIDIA moves about $32 per day. The ATR is $32, so I would definitely watch that. We can move in either direction. Let's say that. So to the downside. Again, it was the low here of 849, 849.30. And let's see if we have any other. Yes. Okay. This 200 EMA, looking at the 4-hour chart, we can come down to the 842.53. So if we break that level here that we create right here at the 849.30. If we break 849.30, then the support could be found here at the 842.53, and that's the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So if you trade NVIDIA, I always say trade carefully, mark your gathering spot, and once we break out of that, allow it to show you what it wants to do. Right now we are above the 20 EMA, and it seems to be finding support at that 20. Just keep in mind, if we break below the 861.65, we could very well break down. So that's something to watch and be mindful of. AMD we've created a gathering spot with AMD, and right now the support is at 160.79, and the resistance was at 161.46. It looks as if we broke out of that area, and it came and tested this 50 EMA, which is at the 162.18. However, it seems like we're getting rejected here. So it needs to break above the 162.18, and it needs to close above that. Let's say that, right? Always wait on your candle to close. If we test this 163.97, which is the ATR trailing stop, normally when it tests this area, it gets rejected and comes back down. But right now, our area to watch is this 162.18. A break above that can give us the 163.97. Right now, it's been trading more or less sideways and not really going anywhere. So I can't say that I see a strong move up or a strong move down. Right now, it just seems like everything is kind of like in this zone, trading in a zone. So if 163.75 is right there where we were yesterday in the gathering spot, so we could very well come up and test this 50 EMA on the 1 hour and get rejected and come back to the downside, right? But that's a level of support resistance right now, 163.75. 166.32, which is around this ATR trailing stop, or the 170.81. There's some stops along the way. Again, that's the 1 hour chart. Looking at the 4 hour to the upside, it's 164.45 and 169.06. and 170.56. So those are areas that I would say, okay, with AMD, these are my trouble places. This is where I'm going to have trouble. Now, to the downside, if we break where we are now, the 160.75, it could very well come back down to test this 159.49 here, or this 158.76. I always look and see, a previous support area, or what stopped it from falling before, or what stopped it from moving higher before. So I use those areas as my support places or my resistance areas. So yeah, Y'all, today is going to be an interesting day. If you get in at the right time and out at the right time, it can be a profitable day. It's just making sure that you get in right and out. So if you miss your entry, let's say that, because there's been times where I've actually, missed my entry. Wait on the next move. Wait on the next time. Wait, don't just jump in it because you missed it and I'm just going to, no. Let the trade come to you. Allow it to come to you. So again, Tesla is trading in this zone here. 5 EMA is our resistance, and that's at 157.69. So I've already set my alerts for Tesla. I won't trade Tesla until it gives me a signal. As with the SPY, it tested this ATR trailing stop and this 50 EMA and got rejected both times here. So now it's coming back to the downside. It wouldn't surprise me to see SPY fill this gap to the downside today. My alert is set at the 502.55. If we break that area, we could very well continue to the downside. And it's telling us now we're under the 5 EMA. The 20 EMA is at that 504.55. A break below that is definitely going to send us back to, to this area. Not definitely. Let me rephrase that. It could send us back to this downside area. I say trade carefully, trade cautiously. And yeah, y'all, today's going to be a great day. Let's say that today's going to be a profitable day. And if not with money, it could be with knowledge. Knowledge is very powerful once it's applied, y'all. I say that often. So y'all, thank you so much for watching. I hope that everyone have an awesome day today. If you could, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And y'all, I always like to leave you with this, right? Be blessed as well as a blessing unto others. Until next time.